Hey everyone, this is John Puritz. Welcome to the Man Up Already podcast. This show is dedicated to each of us being better in all areas of our lives, mentally, spiritually, physically, and relationally. We want to help you be a better you because when you man up already, the world around you is greatly impacted. Here on the podcast, we don't believe you're an accident. We believe each of us is created for purpose, and this show is dedicated to helping you discover and live out that purpose. Again, welcome to the show, and let's check out another great episode. All right. Hey, welcome to the Man Up Already podcast. Super excited, as always, to have you here, and we've got a great show for you today. Pumped to bring our guest on. I've known this man for, quite a while. Way back, our children certainly went to school together, knew each other, and life takes different directions. He's got an incredible story, and we're going to dive into that story and the lessons learned from it today. But our guest has a life that's been full of diverse experiences for over 40 years. He struggled with addiction as a young adult while trying to find his place as a drummer. In the New Orleans music scene, worked as a successful corporate manager, and served as a family care pastor at a megachurch. He's also mentored others for over 25 years. As a loving father of two girls, he tragically lost his firstborn and had to embark on a journey of healing from devastating physical, mental, and emotional pain. Throughout this process, our guest has learned firsthand the importance of community and the phrase, tribal is survival. It became his mantra for his personal life. With the help of therapy, life coaching, and staying grounded in the Word of God, he has been able to serve his family and his community from a place of emotional and spiritual health. The experience has instilled in him a passion to help others who are struggling on their life journey. Together with his wife, Tracy, they have been coaching parents of teens who are facing emotional and spiritual challenges through their nonprofit organization, Nothing Hidden. And now he's extending that caring and compassionate guidance to adults as well to guide them in spiritual and emotional health. Please welcome to the Man Up Already podcast, Jerry Negrato. Jerry, man, good to have you on the podcast. Thank you so much for being here.
Absolutely, man. It's been almost a decade
since we've talked, but we've known each other, I mean, a long time, and it's funny because, and I said this to you when we talked before, I had no idea you were a drummer. I'm like reading your bio too, and I'm like, man, we never talked about that when we were connected.
Yeah, man, I'm collecting vintage drums now. That's my thing.
That's awesome.
That Motown sound. So living in Nashville, you can't help but let the drums start to come back alive in your life. So, and it's awesome. Good therapy, bro. I can go do a jam session for an hour and a half and save a couple $100. That's my own therapy session.
So, well, I mean, look, I joke with people, right? That's my golf game, is doing that. I need that in my life, more than ever. And it's funny, I just got a phone call, and it's been a little while. I'm going to go play a couple of Celebrate Recovery services next week and the week after. So I'll be playing in a church again, which has been a little while. So that's awesome. But
beautiful, man.
Yeah, man. So there's a lot to cover here, but I did your bio, and you've been on what you really claimed a 40-year journey. I mean, obviously, as we all, but you've learned a lot about trauma, about stress, PTSD, all of that. So, man, let's just dive in. You were just obviously sharing a little bit of your story with me, and I said, let's just hit record and go. So,
yeah, let's just jump in. I tell God, use my story, use my pain to become a gift to others, and that's what I live for these days, John. So, the big part of my story and what most people know and focus on is when I lost my daughter 6 years ago, tragically. And at that time in my life, I was living and walking with built up traumas. They were stacking from my early days of, 8, 10 years old, but I didn't even know it. Right. And then when I lose my daughter, I lose my mind. I end up, with the psychiatrist and diagnosed with complex PTSD, which is multiple uh, events that now lock arms and become one huge event. People say, "Well, gosh, were you in the war?" No. Were you a vet? What the heck happened? Well, what happened was, this is crazy. It's going to sound like I'm making stories up, but when I was 19, I got shot. I was involved with a passion crime. Stole the guy's girlfriend. He got obsessed and said, if I can't have her, I'm killing everybody. So I got shot. She got shot in the head twice. He shot himself. And back then, I chose not to go to therapy. I was young and dumb, 19,
Right.
and self-medicated. Just turned to drugs and alcohol, and that was my way of escape from the pain and the reality of what happened. Um, almost lost my arm. Couldn't play drums. That was my life at that time. So I carried that for years, and then 2 years after being shot, I got stabbed. I'll leave that story untold. We don't need to get into the details, but that's the truth of it. I had two serious traumatic events that I left unprocessed. Chose not to get help, work through it, and after being stabbed, just then went deeper into drugs and alcohol, and that was my medication, which only put me into a deeper state of mind and pit.
Mm.
And I was just trying to live from this place as best as I could. Kind of crazy because became a corporate executive and then I was a functioning drug addict. As crazy as that sounds, I was always in the top five sales people in the district, and I drank every day. I was drunk probably 6 days a week and using drugs, but highly functional. So it's a paradox how that happens,
Right.
but people do live like that, and so I didn't know this that I was living with trauma, carrying it, self medicating, and I came to Christ when I was 30 years old. So that would have been 30 years ago. Got healed of drugs, alcohol, um, but didn't get healed of all the trauma. Didn't even know I had the trauma. Didn't even know I had PTSD. Didn't ask God to heal me of that. But that was still my limp. I still had a limp, and a lot of character flaws from that I didn't know about. And then when we lost Bella, that's when complex PTSD. I was diagnosed with that. I mean, crazy stuff. I was chronically depressed. I had high anxiety disorder at the same time. But then I would have red outs. A red out is when you have a rage and go past anger into a rage and actually black out.
Wow.
You don't remember what you do. So I was a loose cannon, man. Days where I was just depressed, couldn't get out of bed, didn't want to get out of bed, didn't know what day it was, didn't know my address for almost 3 months. And thank God for my wife, a praying wife who, now is trying to take care of me. I'm on disability. And I'm gonna tell you, there's one thing that I had, because I didn't think I had really anything, but I knew I had God. I didn't know what that looked like. My theology was crushed down into powder, as you can imagine, like praying for your daughter for 4 years. It was 4 years prior to her taking her life that we were trying to get her better and journeying through all these processes and therapies and programs and nothing was working. Then all of a sudden she's gone, right? And I'm left with a situation and an event that literally like rips your heart out of your chest, gets thrown on the ground and pounded with a hammer, right? And then you got to go, well, where's God in this, right?
Right.
Not only where is God, but who is God? who is he? I don't even know. But what I did know is that I believed, but all my theology was crushed into powder, and I kind of had to start over, John. I call it, I had to rediscover who God was. And at that journey, I had to rediscover what life was going to look like, right? Um, I didn't know if I was going to get my mind back or not. So I like to share some details of my journey because I believe there's a lot of alternative and holistic therapies out there that are not offered through just traditional doctors and medicine. They're not talked about. We don't need to get into why, but and there's a book called The Body Keeps a Score. If there's
Mm.
anybody listening to this podcast that has trauma, that has some events, read the book The Body Keeps a Score. You'll understand pretty much where I'm coming from with everything. So yeah, we lost Bella. Here I am sitting as a wrecked man, um, wondering who God is again, and that starts this painful but very beautiful journey. Beautiful journey.
I don't even want to wait. What was the answer to that? So your question was, who is God? Not just in this, but who is he? Right? Like your faith, I love what you said, is just dust.
Yeah.
What is the answer to that?
For me, it was a journey to find the answer. I want to say that. I mean, at the beginning of the process, it was, I know there's a God. I've believed, I still believe, but I'm not sure if all the things I believe about him, that I've learned about him, are true. Okay. Will
Yeah.
I ever, now being a pastor as well, my theology, the things I taught from the stage, right? And what I used to disciple people were being challenged personally. One is, do I really believe in miracles again? Because my daughter didn't get a miracle, right? So if that's the case, why do I even need to pray for people that are sick? And then what is my relationship to prayer now? So that was one big part of the journey, probably the biggest part. And then when you're sitting with just pain that is so intense, I can't even put words to it. And John, there were times, I'm writing a book right now, and as I'm doing that, I'm going to share some things that I've been thinking about, because I would disassociate from my body. That's a word that you only hear when you're working with somebody who's very trauma informed. But disassociation is when the pain that you experience, the trauma you experience, is so intense that you disassociate from it. It's almost like you leave your body. You can't live in that body and feel those thoughts. It's almost like you're floating right outside of the person that you are, but you can't connect and relate. And so that's the state I was in for a long time. And that journey to know who God was, here's what I hung on to, because there wasn't a lot of theology that I could even bring to my remembrance. But I remembered the verse where it says that we're in the palm of his hand and nobody can snatch us out. And all I knew is if he had these hands wide open, I was laying down limp, listless, nothing to give, but I was in his hands. And that was enough, John. That was enough to keep me through the journey.
Wow. And what were when you came through that, like where are you now in that relationship, if you don't mind me asking?
It's a great question. I am better than ever. Okay. Because what I went through, I could have become a very bitter person and stayed in a victim mindset, or I could have become a better person because I'm willing to face and feel the pain. I'm willing to be honest with God, myself, and other people, and do all the work. I was able to get to this place to where I realized that my pain, if I just kept it and I didn't work through it, I was going to be a version of myself that I didn't desire. Let me leave it at
Mm-hmm.
that. There's just no way I wasn't going to hold some type of bitterness towards at least the situation in life. And that's what I would call a victim mindset, be a victim to my circumstances, right? I had a pretty darn good reason to be a victim, right? But as I did work, I was like, I'm not going to be that person. And it was actually Toby Mack. He lost his son to an overdose about 3 months after we lost Bella.
Wow.
And they were
I did not know
friends.
that.
Yeah, I was at Truitt's celebration of life. And so me and Toby were journeying together. And every once in a while I would go and just get on YouTube, Toby talking about the loss of Truitt. And he, I don't know, maybe it was 3-4 years ago, said, hey, um, we're not going to allow, we're not putting our faith and our trust in doctors and psychiatrists and medication and alcohol or anything anymore. We, as a family, are taking a stand, and all our hope, everything we're betting on, is in the chief cornerstone in Jesus Christ. And that's actually where he wrote that song. Cornerstone was birthed out of this moment, right? And so I watched that video with Toby. That was part of my journey following him. And I was like, I'm going to be a bitter person if I live in this victim mindset. And I was like, God, you gotta help me out of this place. Because even the most loving, kind people and believers and family members will, oh, I'm so sorry. What happened? Oh my God, you should go have a couple old fashions. Your story's so bad. I'm so sorry. And they'll feed into that, right?
Yeah. Yep.
And that's a whole nother thing. I was an alcoholic for years. I gotten sober. Next thing you know, people are telling me to go out with the guys and have some old fashions, right? And I started drinking again. I'm drinking again because I was hurting so bad. So that's a whole nother journey of me getting sober. I've been, my 2-year anniversary was about 2 weeks ago, as a matter of fact.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So my story's got a lot of components to it, right? But back to just that journeying with God. So I just held to that one verse. I'm in the palm of his hand. Nobody's going to snatch me out. So I'm safe. Right. And that he heals the brokenhearted, and that he's going to somehow heal my heart. And we started doing ministry. We started a nonprofit called Nothing Hidden. .org, and Nothing Hidden is where we were coaching parents and had teens struggling with mental health, and walking them through a journey, a 4-step process to find out how to get the best care for their children by looking at alternative, holistic, conventional medicine doctors, and having all the offerings that are available, right? And I remember it very well. 4 years ago, it was our first workshop at church, and it was anxiety or depression. I don't remember what the topic was. And I was going into a full-on panic attack. I mean, not an anxiety attack, because you start with, I feel anxious. Now I have an anxiety attack. If you don't get that under control, then it turns into a panic attack where you feel like you're having a heart attack, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this is happening 10 minutes before we're going on stage. I grab everybody who's around, the elders, the pastor's wife, and I'm like, get us in a room and lay hands on us, because I'm wrecked. I am being triggered. I'm in a trauma state right now, and I don't know how I'm going to do this. And I remember Shannon Tyler, our pastor's wife, looking at me. I don't know if she put her hands on my shoulders, but she looked right into my eyes and said, Jerry, your story and your pain is a gift to others. You can do this. God has taken that story and he's allowing it to be a gift, and other people need to hear what you're going to say tonight. And that was a huge shift for me. And that shift, that new perspective, John, also was part of me figuring out who God was again, right? Because the why did this happen? Why did the end result end this way? As humans, we're curious. We're going to ask, why God, why God, why God, why God, why God? But you have to get to a point in this process of pain and journeying through trauma that you stop asking why the event happened and you say, God, what do you want me to do with my story? And see, when Shannon helped me shift that perspective, then I realized that God wasn't cruel to me. He didn't love me any less. Life is hard, man. We can go back and read the Bible, man. There's all kinds of crazy, traumatic events all through the Old Testament.
Right.
And I'm just another one of his kids and had a very unfortunate situation. So at that moment, I think really what happened was I was able to break through and stop asking why, because the why made me wonder if he really loved me, like the word of God says, right? I broke through that wall, and then now the love of God became real to me again. And that was a huge moment for me, that he did love me, that he can use my story as a gift to others, and am I willing to continue to share it? And so we did that. In that journey, man, it was hard. We were doing workshops quarterly, and it would take me a week to recover, man. I remember we were doing one for the youth, and we put up some videos of teenagers like with their parents having conversations. A girl like, I have anxiety, mom and dad. You don't understand it. You don't get it. All you want to do is try to make me better. Why don't you just listen to me? And it triggered stuff with my daughter, man. And I went into a full-blown panic attack during that event, right? So why am I saying all this? I was still healing. Trauma, PTSD, complex PTSD, it takes time, right? And you have to learn yourself. You have to learn, they call it exposure therapy. What can I expose myself back to? A place, people, movies. What can I talk about and not talk about? Because if I do, I get triggered and I put myself in a state of trauma. That could be anywhere from, a state of trauma. The therapist will tell you when you're, look at a scale of 1 to 10. If your emotions are traumatized, you hit like about a 7. And then that's when you just lose a sense of everything, right? So I had to learn all of that, engage that. What could I talk about? What wouldn't I talk about? The word suicide, I couldn't even say that word for 4 years. If you said that word, I would like get up and have to leave. Like I would have to run, fight, flight, or freeze, right? I'd have to go into flight mode. And so what I had to do through the process of healing, doing workshops, learning how to share my story without getting myself into a state of trauma, was realize that exposure therapy was really important, right? And conversations were also very important, to know how to say ahead of time, hey, look, I'm going to sit down and you can do a podcast with me, but this is what we're not going to talk about.
Right.
I don't want to
Setting
hear
boundaries.
the word. Yeah, I don't want to hear the word suicide, or parents that were going to coach, that they understood that. If their kids were coming out of a mental health facility, hey, we're probably not the best people right now. So work with professionals, and we'll work with you, or we'll work alongside of them until your child is stabilized. And so through this process of events and healing and being exposed to people, places, events, I continued on in therapy. And so I want to spend a little time, and you can stop me and ask as many questions as you can, because this is really what I do now as a coach. I'm a soul coach. I love that. Soul, SOUL coach. I lead and guide people towards spiritual and emotional health, so that the relationships around them can become and stay healthy. And I believe if you're spiritually healthy, you can become emotionally healthy. I don't know how you can become really emotionally healthy and grounded without being spiritually healthy first. We need to be grounded and anchored in Jesus, man, in his word. And that's part of my journey. So a little bit of my journey is I've done over 150 trauma sessions. It's called EMDR,
Mm-hmm.
EMDR sessions, where you process trauma. I mean, I was going twice a week for about a year. And so I learned a lot about trauma processing, and was life-changing for me. I was able to start getting off the 4 medications I was on as I did EMDR for 2 years. And my mind started to come back again. And I could feel again. John, there was probably a year where my emotional EQ, the ability to feel emotions, I didn't have any. I had zero emotions, ability to feel. So you can imagine my relationship with my wife and my daughter. It was pretty flat.
Right.
It was just pretty flat. I didn't have the ability. So my emotions started to come back alive. I started to come back alive. I started to connect with other humans, the people that were loving me for all this time. So I'm a huge proponent of EMDR therapy for trauma processing. So I got to a point where I started to get a lot healthier. I was able to go back to work for a while. The stress of that was not good for me. So I was on this journey of going, okay, God, what next? Okay. I don't want to be on medication for the rest of my life. Nor did my psychiatrist want me to be. He believed we could put me on a journey. And I still do have one that I use as needed. No shame in that. That's what it's there for. And yeah, so as I journeyed, I was like, there's got to be more. What else is out there? And I discovered neurofeedback, where they actually map your brain. They put little probes around your skull cap, and they're actually able to measure. I used lens therapy, by the way, so I want to be specific to that. They measure your brainwave activity through the different regions of your brain. And it was really a no-brainer for me. They were able to show me exactly why I was depressed, why I had anxiety, where I had trauma. These little, they look like little hurricanes show up in the imaging. So there's imaging they look at, and it's colored, and then there's graphs that they look at. So for me, they measured 21 regions of my brain for brainwave activity, and it should have been all from like a 6 to 10. 20 of 21 regions of my brain were severely suppressed.
Wow.
I'm talking not even a 1, right? And the one that was awake and alive was anxiety. So that needed to be slowed down. That activity needed to be brought down. So I started to journey through now this healing of my brain through neurofeedback brought me to a whole new place of healing without medication, because it basically brought my brainwave activity back to, I'm just going to use my term, baseline.
Yeah.
And so that was amazing for me. And every time I came to a new place of healing, John, not only were my relationships around me better, but my relationship with God was better. Why? I don't know. It's just, I guess I was almost like a dead man. I'm almost like a zombie at first. And as I was being healed, and I will say, I did believe in prayer again, and I did believe in prayer for healing again. Took me about a year, so I started going for prayer. And so there was a combination: God working, prayer for miracles, Jerry doing all the work, being willing to face and feel his pain and work through that. Hardcore journaling. I do what I call interactive journaling. I teach my clients how to do that. And it's kind of a form of CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, where you look at all your thoughts and you challenge them, and you look at which ones are lying to you or manipulating you or deceiving you, and you write them all out and you challenge them and you pray over them and you look at which ones you have some control over, you don't. If you don't have control over them, we'll cross them out. There's no reason to even be focused on those because you can't control the outcome anyway. We got to
Right.
put that into God's hands, cast our cares upon him. And so interactive journaling is something I was doing, I continue to do. So that was kind of to keep the mind chatter slowed down. Sometimes I could get the mind chatter, the inner critic, the shame, that story that wants to pop back up into my head and latch on and gain control of what I'm thinking and focusing on to pull me back down. So I learned this interactive journaling that I do to this day. I teach my clients gratitude. Gosh, man, so important, dude. I have a 5-year rolling journal. I'm on year 4 now, which is fantastic because when I journal now, my gratitude, I can go back 4 years and see what was going on and how far I've come. Right. And that's another way that God drew me closer to him because 6 years ago I was a broken mess, wondering if I would ever be fixed again. Am I even worthy? Can I even be a man again? Can I provide for my family again? Now, now your manhood gets crushed and stepped on, and you're living from this place of a broken manhood. God created us with these masculine things to protect and provide. I'm not able to do any of that. So that's a whole nother story in its own, right? That I'm working through. But what I found is as I go back and look at my journal, and I do that every day, I journal 3 things to be grateful for. And I don't just, it's interactive, right? So here's what it is. It's not just the sun's out today. Thank you, Lord. I love the sun. It's, Lord, the sun's out today. I love the sun. I miss Florida and I'm here, but I know sun gives me vitamin D, and that is good for my mental health. Thank you for the sun. I love it. I have a little talk with him about the things I'm grateful for.
Love that.
Like my daughter last night was in Nashville. The CMA just started. She was in the big stadium out. I think it's crazy down in Nashville. And I think they were going to take little scooters to the stadium, because she lives downtown. And it's just like, okay, there's a lot going on downtown. And I want to wake up in the morning and make sure she's good. Nobody wrecked a scooter. Everybody got home. Everybody's safe. Lord, thank you that Mia's safe. Thank you. She had a great time. I love my daughter. I can't handle losing another daughter. I am grateful that you were watching over her and her friends, and that you put angels in charge over us. Thank you for that. And so I make it a thing, man. It's me talking to him. I'm grateful. I bring in the word of God. I bring in his truths, and it keeps me grounded. Right. And so when I'm doing the interactive journaling, I'm writing out all my thoughts that I'm ruminating, and they're intrusive and they're negative, and I'm in a bad head. The mind chatter is really loud. The inner critic is winning, right? The past stories are being highlighted. What am I going to do? I'm going to get my journal out. I'm going to write down all the stuff I'm thinking, line by line. And I'm going to stop. Then I'm going to pray. I'm going to say, God, I need you. I'm going to take these thoughts captive. I'm bringing them to you right now. I need to know what's true. I need you to ground me. Like I say, I first look at the ones I have no control over. Why am I worrying about those? The word says worry about today only. Tomorrow's got enough worries of its own. I'm not going to future trip. That's the word I like to use. I'm future tripping, man. Trying to control these outcomes. I got a bad head. I'm stressing myself out. I don't need to be doing this. So I'm going to just X all those out. It's usually about 70% of what's going on. Some people will say 80, whatever it is. When you got a really bad head and the mind chatter's loud, it might be 50%. And I'm going to X those out. I'm just like, I'm going to pray those off my list, up to heaven, and out of my head. Now I'm going to focus on the things that are there. And sometimes if I really need to get grounded, I'm going to get the word of God. I'm going to do a topical study. I'm going to find scriptures, and then I'm going to start journaling scriptures around what I'm struggling with. It's really like having a counseling session with Jesus, man. Right? He's the living word. He's the living word. He's the wonderful counselor. And when I'm in the word and I'm struggling and I'm wrestling through all of my humanity, and I got him involved, we're sitting together, and me and him are having a session. That's the way I look at it. And that is healthy. That is how we build ourselves back up spiritually so that we can now become emotionally healthy. So that's kind of my journey. There's a lot of stories into that over the last 6 years. And if I even went back, now that I'm doing somatic work now, are you familiar with that term? Somatic work?
I connect sleep to that, but I don't know.
Soma, yeah, and is body. So this book called The Body Keeps the Score, when it was released, really changed the direction of the mental health industry, and everyone wanting to become trauma informed. And the premise of the book is, and there's science now that backs everything I'm saying. Dr. Daniel Ammon, who's a Christian guy who does all the brain neurofeedback stuff, talks about it all the time. But trauma gets stored in our body.
Correct.
In our nervous system, in organs, in our fascia, because all of that's connected tissue. So when you have a traumatic event, it's almost like you have an explosion within your nervous system, and that has to get healed. It has to get released. That trauma has to find its way out of your body. And over my journey of years, that's happening for me. And so the last step that I took was somatic work, and it's getting practitioners who get their hands on your body, right? And they can find, and in Chinese medicine too, they'll say certain organs are where certain emotions live. And I think there's a lot of truth to that. But I'm not a doctor, so we'll keep it simple, right? But all I know is my somatic practitioner, he gets down into those organs and he follows the Chinese medicine. So he knows that organ, and he'll say, "Hey man, are you like dealing with anger right now?" And he'll be spot on. Maybe me and my wife had a really bad argument the night before, or 2 days, and we haven't really reconciled that conversation yet. I'm picking up sadness, and I'll be like, "Yeah, man, I've been thinking about a Bella a lot, and it's just kind of been overwhelming, and I've been really sad." So this somatic work, they're able to get into your body, your fascia, down into the organs. Some of the fascia releases even down into the nervous system. And so when that part of my healing journey started to take place, whole new level of health for me just opened up. So what I do now is I have a mental health regimen. It's quarterly. Quarterly, I go in for a 1 or 2 neurofeedback sessions. We call them tune-ups, and it's usually my executive functioning part of my brain is really exhausted, making decisions, trying to cast vision, planning, all of that gets really tired. I start getting short-term memory, like my brain's floating in my head a little bit. Last time I waited 5 months instead of 3.5, and I could feel that, right? So I go for neurofeedback. I go in for a great therapeutic massage. I'll go out in outdoors, in the woods, into the mountains. And I will also go and do a somatic fascia release session or 2. And when I'm on the outdoors, man, that's when I really connect with God. There's something about me and him in the woods, in the mountains, by a river, on the lake. We don't have beaches here, John. We got dirty lakes. But any kind of water. And I'll tell you, man, I've been doing that now for 2 years, and that is really what's kept me healthy, back plugged in to church, serving at church, have no problems with God over what happened. It happened. I am a better person than I've ever been, and the reason is I know him, so intimately now.
Mhm.
I know him at a level that I would never know him at if this wouldn't have happened. It pushed me to a place where I had choices to make. Am I turning from him or I'm turning towards him? And with little bit I have, just the faith of a mustard seed, a little bitty seed. I probably had a half of a mustard seed or the smallest of the smallest mustard seed, but that's all I needed. And yeah, I have a beautiful relationship with the Father now. And man, worship and prayer times with him are just so deep and intimate. And we still have moments, you know. I'll tell you one of them. That song, "Good Good Father," perfect in
Mhm.
all your ways.
Yep.
Can you imagine losing your kid, right? After trying to keep him alive for 3 years and hearing that song. That song would put me into panic attacks. I'd actually have to leave service and then have people laying hands on me. I can hear that song now and I can actually sing that song because I believe what that song messages, that he
Mm.
is a good, good father, right? And so that's the journey, man. You know, and now I get to help people. Soul Care Natural. I get to help people journey through their journeys. I'm working with a suicide survivor right now. Um, I'm working with a guy whose wife took her life. And we started with just grief counseling. And from there, it became sober coaching because he did what a lot of people do. He turned to alcohol. So I have the privilege, right, to journey with these people because it was part of my journey. And God took
Right.
me from here in this deep hole to here up on this mountain. And and I get to do that, man. Yeah, I get to do that.
It's called Soul Care. What?
Yeah, so it's Soul, Soul Care, Care, Nashville.com.
All
Yeah,
right.
Soul Care Nashville.
Let's put that up there. I can edit this part out, but let's put it
Yeah.
up. Is that right?
Soul Care Nashville. That's my thing, man. That is my
Awesome.
everyday's thing. Right there. So Nothing Hidden was Bella's story. Soul Care Nashville is my journey. And I still left out half of my story because I don't want to talk too much about myself. I want you to talk, ask me some questions. I said a lot in a little bit of time.
Well, look, we're at 45 minutes already, so
Yeah.
I think what you just shared is there's no question that I could ask. You've answered a lot just in everything that
Mhm.
you went through. I want to highlight a couple of things. One of the things that I have talked about on this podcast is um, pain has a purpose.
Mhm.
You know, pain has a purpose, and you took your pain and found your purpose. You know, and that
Yes.
purpose can only come from God. You know what I mean? Like we can in our humanity try to define it, but um, you know, the Bible is filled of stories of people who went through pain for a
Mhm.
purpose, you know, and it's part of that larger journey. So you know, what you shared was really huge.
And to
I want to talk
piggyback off that real quick,
yeah.
there's also a saying that the reason humans suffer is because they avoid their suffering, right? We want
Wow.
to run from it. We want to
Hmm.
medicate. We don't want to walk through it. So I call it face and feel. We got to face the fact that we had an event that caused great pain and suffering. We have to face it. We need to be willing to feel it, all the emotions. And we need to be able to walk right into it head on and walk through it to the other side. One of the great philosophers, forgot who it was, said that we can, and I'm a paraphrase, we can walk and even run away from our pain, but it walks and runs just as fast as we do. and it'll eventually show up. And when it does, it's stronger and uglier. And that is so true. So, so when you face and feel and you walk through the pain and you get on the other side, that's when you're going to find your purpose, because pain does have a purpose in the kingdom of God. Absolutely.
Yeah. The other thing was the choice to either stay, and maybe we could dive in a little bit in our remaining time into this. But I've alluded on here, right? I'm going through my own personal life-altering scenario right now. And you can choose to be a victim, right? Because victimhood is easy. Like you said, everybody can resonate. Everybody resonates with victim, right? It's just an easy thing for everybody to grab. Oh, I'm so sorry. You should do this. Or how are you doing? You know what I mean? Like those things just constantly come, and they
because
reinforce.
it becomes a me thing. We like
Right.
that because of the me thing. Yeah.
Right. But to choose, I love what you talked about, that every day, I talked about this on the last podcast that I recorded, was, we live in a fallen world, right? To be flesh is to live in a sinful nature. I mean, it just, we hear that, but we can't relate to that. But if sin truly is anything that separates us from God, and right, just to be physical in form, if we're spiritual beings, is separated from God.
Yeah.
Right. But if there was one perfect human being, then every day is a desire to continue to get as close to that as a human being as we possibly can. Right. Like it's just that journey of every moment of every day, trying to be, I use better, but it's to become more like him.
Yes.
And or we can just say, pinpoint, I'm not going to forgive. I'm going to be angry. All those things that keep us in that, or unable to continue to move forward. And I think, and I'd love to get your take on this, is through over the last 20 to 20, let's call it 30 years, with the advent of technology. I mean, technology is great. Here we are sharing our story, et cetera, et cetera. But I think it's causing that journey. There's blessings and there's not. It's easier to gravitate to the negative maybe today because you're exposed to so much more of it. But positivity and growth is a choice as well. And you could be exposed to great thinkers, great people, like you, that are doing things, who have been through struggles, share their journey. It really, in the end, becomes a choice. I just think it's easier to stay in the negative and harder to choose to be positive.
It is. Again, when you fall into that victim mindset, it really starts to serve you, and it becomes about me. And when you choose to, at a point, I just got, I'm sick of sharing my story. I'm sick of hearing, I'm so sorry. I'm sick of people wanting, show me compassion because I like it, and it makes me want to just. Please don't misunderstand. I needed all of that love, right? But it got to a point where it was self-serving for me.
Right.
Right. And then this is another thing. It's kind of, I stopped working with therapists 2 years ago, psychotherapy. And I needed psychotherapy for 4 years. I was wrecked. I needed to do EMDR, and it served me well. But this is a thing that happened for me personally, and I just want to talk about it, is self-care became such a buzzword during the pandemic and after the pandemic. We got to take care of ourselves. We got to go do this or that to make ourselves happy. And for me, self-care became paramount in my healing. For me, it was like, I need to go outdoors, right? Okay. I had a flashback. I need to get out of my house. I need to put all the pictures of my daughter away because I can't handle them. And I need to go to the beach for 3 days. Okay. For me, with complex PTSD early on, those were all necessary things. And self-care wasn't self-serving. It was survival, right?
Yep.
Well, here's what happened, John, is it started to become selfish over time. Because I was programmed self-care, self-care, self-care. Jerry got triggered. You triggered Jerry, so I can yell at you. And now I got to go do self-care. So I'm leaving. I'm going to go do this. And self-care for me became self-serving, which means I am a selfish person. And I don't think that lines up too much with God's word, nor the way of Jesus, right? So that was a whole nother journey for me, was to break free from self-care and selfishness, and to realize that self-care for me was just making sure that I was keeping myself healthy mentally, physically, exercising, but it's not really about me. It's about my quarterly plan. Like I told you, I go to
Yep.
neurofeedback, I do that whole thing. That's really self-care. Hey, we talked 2 weeks ago, me and Tracy. It was the first time we shared Bella's story in 2 years in depth. Um, and I got triggered, man. We put pictures of her. It's one thing to look at pictures of Bella on a little computer screen. This was like a 20 by 20 screen in this huge room with 100 people. And when I saw those pictures, and as Tracy was sharing her story, it freaking wrecked me, dude. I mean, I'm like weeping, and I'm up front trying not to lose it because
Yeah.
I'm up to the mic like in 30 seconds, in a minute. I don't know, but I'm trying to collect myself, right? And I was wrecked. It took me literally a week and a half to recover from that. So the self-care I did was only to get myself better so I could be good for my wife, right? It wasn't about me, it was about her.
Right.
See, that's self-care to me, is when I need to get better because I want to serve humanity. I want to serve my wife. I want to be the best version of the man of God that I'm called to be for my queen. And right now I'm kind of wrecked emotionally, and I know what I got to do. And I've done those things over the last 13 days, and all of a sudden just I felt the shift
Mm.
because I know what to do. Understand my body, understand the way my brain feels, and I know what my body feels like from all the holistic alternative work that I've done. Reading the body keeps score, doing the somatic work. I'm studying that now. I'm fascinated by the brain body connection. It's connected, through the nervous system, and you got the vagus nerve that goes from the bottom of your spine all the way up your neck into your brain. Learning how to release the vagus nerve, how to keep that unbound and whatnot. But anyway, I won't go into all of that. I'm fascinated by it. Um, and so, yeah, this whole self-care thing, and when you're in a victim mindset, not only is self-care something paramount to you, then you start expecting, here's where it gets ugly, other people to take care of you.
Mm.
There's these nuanced little things about you that if they're not doing certain things, or they start saying certain things to you because you like it, you know, it's ugly, but you like it. You're deceived. I'm in this mindset, and it causes friction in relationships if you have unrealistic expectations. So in my journey, wow, that's something we didn't even talk about. Expectations. Gosh, expectations of who is God? What do I expect from Him? What does my relationship look like with Him? What is
Hmm.
my relationship to my wife now? She's been taking care of Bella for 3 years. We lose her now. She's taking care of me for 2 years. That got messy. Now the expectations I have of my daughter. Like, okay, I texted her. She didn't text me back for 2 days. Oh my God, am I going to go into a panic attack and blame her for me, like having all of this mind chatter that goes into fear? And where is she? What happened to her? Oh my God, does she not respect me? She knows I lost a daughter and all this. It's like, wait a minute, why am I putting all that on her?
Right.
This is a me problem, not a Mia problem. That's a whole nother conversation we could have about expectations, journeying through healing, and expectations needing to be um, transformed, perspectives needing to be changed, being open and curious to other things, and leaving the whys behind and finding all the what's and the purpose in that. But expectations are in that mix of messiness, right? Because we're human. And then self-care can get self-serving and selfish, and then it's sin. And I mean, it's all of that, man.
Wow. And it's we could be on here for 3 hours. I want people to find you, Jerry. So what's the best way for them to do that? I know we have, we have Nothing Hidden, which obviously we discussed, of how you guys are working with parents and teens and all of that. But then people can find you here, Soul Care Nashville, right?
Yeah, I do as discovery call. So if somebody goes on our website, there's a section that says free, I think, coaching session. It's just a discovery call. Let's talk. Tell me what part of your story is, what you're going through. And let's see if I'm a match to be the coach for you or not. Yeah, and we don't charge. We just ask people to donate back into the nonprofits so that I can serve people. Like, I'll leave the name out, but the guy is a suicide survivor, man. I mean, he got out of the hospital and his wife threw him out, divorced him. The guy was living in a van for almost a year, lost everything. And I've been meeting with him for a year. I don't charge him. The guy who also lost his wife to suicide. I mean, he's a year and a half in his journey, just went back to work. So I don't charge. I just ask people to give back into the nonprofit so I can serve those who can't.
Wow.
Pay for a counselor, psychiatrist, and whatnot. So that's what we do, man. I get to do that.
Incredible. Absolutely incredible. Well, dude, thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing. You brought a lot, and I'm going to have to watch our podcast a couple of times just to process it all. So, really phenomenal. Really, really phenomenal.
If there's any certain topic or two that pops out and you want to do this again, we can do deep dives because I do. Yeah, we can
no
do
doubt.
that.
Yeah, for sure. Jerry, thank you. I encourage everybody, reach out to you. It's an incredible journey, and I have full faith that you are going to make a huge difference in the kingdom for God with, healing people and all that's just incredible. So thank you.
Thank you, man. My privilege.